So today I'm talking about being judged, how to be judged and not give a fuck. If you want to go your own way, make your own route, go off the path and see what the alternative has to offer for you, you have to be willing to be judged. And for a long time, um, I used to get upset at judgment because nobody really likes to feel judged in their actions or in their decisions. But I've come to understand over the last few years that you need to be okay with being judged. And you have to be okay with people not understanding. Because it's not their job to understand, it's your job to understand. It's your job to understand what you're doing, why you're trying to do it. And if they don't understand, that's not your problem. And in fact, being judged is a good indicator that you're doing something correct. Now, I've spent, a good amount of time over my life analyzing what makes successful people successful. And there's one point that I continuously revert back to, and that's the idea that the most successful people oftentimes are the ones who succeed the most in being themselves. Because that's the hardest thing to be, is yourself. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole individuation process discussed by Carl Jung on what it means in the process of how you become an individual. But if you look at the people that you admire, if you look at the people that you respect, if you look at the people that you desire to be like and who have an influence over your sort of course of actions, those people stand out as individuals. And that requires a confidence to be judged as an individual. And it takes time to build that confidence. It takes time to build those things to get to a point where you say, I'm actually okay with being misunderstood. I'm okay with being judged for my actions. And you sort of, to a degree, have to seek that out. Now, there is a point. I'm not going to say where it goes too far, but you have to understand that there's degrees of deviation from the norm, right? Let's say, for example, you're on this path to becoming an individual and you're straying from the norm. You might start changing your clothes, you might start changing your hair, you might start changing your appearance. And there's degrees of extremities from the norm. Now, on the extreme end in my personal belief, it's not so good. The reason being is that it puts you too far outside of society and the masses. And there's a very, very, very delicate balance on the precipice, on the cusp of what's socially acceptable and what's still cutting on the edge of uniqueness and distinction from the rest. It's a very delicate balance to find. And I think it's one that takes a lot of time. Because there's so many steps and processes and things and experiences that you have to go through in order to shape you as a strong individual that can withstand and sort of stand in front of cultural mass of ideology or beliefs or whatever. And initially, there's going to be friction. Because there always is. It might not even be just initially, it might be continuously. And that's something that you have to be okay with. Because it's only going to sharpen you, know? If you have ideas and you want to put them out there, the fact that they're being judged is only going to sharpen your skills in the defense of those beliefs in those actions, in the way that you communicate why you're doing what you're doing. And having confidence to do this doesn't just come overnight. It comes from a series of repeatedly doing that for yourself to do bigger and bigger things. People with confidence, confidence is one of the biggest things. Self-esteem and confidence is one of the biggest issues that people have. And I know this because I used to have extremely low self-confidence. I used to have extremely low self-esteem, all these things. And it really does take a lot of practice and reshaping of internal beliefs and views to flip the script on that. But it's not something that you just wake up with. You have to continually reinforce actions that uphold confidence. Confidence and self-esteem are like it's like an egg that you have to continuously just hold carefully, you know? And when you do things, when you do hard things that you didn't think that you could have done before, it makes holding the egg that much easier. When you know, if you first get an egg, you don't know how to hold it, you might be like, or like if you get a baby, you might be like, but if you've held an egg before, if you've held an egg while doing freaking acrobatics, if you held an egg while doing all extreme shit, it's like you're gonna feel confident holding that egg. You know what I mean? So you have to constantly test yourself and test these boundaries in ways that most people do not like to test themselves. And when you choose to go off that alternative path, it's all a test. It's all a big fucking test. And the more passes, the more times that you pass those tests, the more confidence, the more self-esteem you'll gain. And the more confidence and the more self-esteem you gain, the less judgment really affects what you're doing. Now, one of the hardest things I think for men is to be judged on the vulnerability of their beliefs and their convictions and what they truly believe, which is why I think a lot of men never really share what they believe or take a strong stance, at least today. Because they themselves also haven't done the work to build that confidence to speak with conviction, if that makes sense. Like I said, it takes time. It takes time. And when you talk about those guys and those people that you look up to, like I was saying earlier, by the time they get to that point where they see like, oh, just like nothing really affects them, it's just like they just take it on the chin and they just go forward. It's like that's after hours and thousands of hours and tens of thousands of hours of 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 proving to themselves, doing things to themselves to prove to themselves that when they get to those points of just mass judgment or personal judgment and things like that, that they can handle it. So something to be mindful of, something to practice, something to get better at, you know? So yeah.